Coast. So thanks again for the opportunity, Victor and Rachel, and all of you guys for coming. Hopefully we will learn one or two things. I put this slide just to show you where it's kind of all started many years ago, the view. I think this is on the left is basically here on the left hand side is in Zavora when I was still a medical student.
2004.
Yes, and here is a week ago, 25 years later. And I wanted to put a contrast because this is not what I imagined when I was in first year medical school. As you guys all know, I did medical school back in the DRC and then back again in South Africa. But joining DRC, I don't know about you guys, joining medical school wasn't something that I had a vision for it. I think it was more to do with looking at those who were doctors at that stage and see what they have achieved, who they are. And that's probably what motivated me more than the doctor think of what looking after a patient means to anybody. So it's not like I was pushed by having something that a calling and say, this is my dedication will be for a sick people. I only realized later that actually doctor thing, it means to look after sick people. For all that time, I didn't realize that it had anything to do with sick people. And only acutely be aware in South Africa when all these talks and exposure to CMF made me now realize that actually this is why I did medicine. And later on to find out that, okay, to be a doctor means you will have at some stage to see sick people. And this is one of the sickest person because what sickness is to the people, to some it could be rejection, to some it could be anything, but to us it's just one of the clients. And this contrast I was acutely aware when we went to Mozambique because this young girl was abandoned. She was at the time she was 17, I think, 17 years old. And she was abandoned because she had these wounds on her bilateral limb and that were not healing. And looking after her became a burden to the family. And everybody decided, you know what, this is a lost cause. They left her.
Oh.
And when we went there for an outreach, I was still a medical student, we were told that because we were going around and just preach and share and visiting families, and got there to the house and she was alone. And speaking to her, we found out that she was sick and all of that, so we brought her to the clinic. This is at the clinic now, and dress her wounds. This is Yeneka, who was a student nurse from Netherlands, who came and joined us. So we brought her to that clinic and started dressing the wounds with milk because we didn't have any wound care. But
milk.
2 years later, with honey and what you call sugar and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Good.
And eventually we left her with somebody because we had to feed her. She stayed with us the whole week at the clinic. And when we left, we gave somebody from the church, adopted her and said, I will look after her while she's here. So at least she had access to that. And each year when we went there, we looked, the wound seemed to have improved. And that's what made me realize now that the doctor thing is actually can get so messy, can get so personal, can get so... And later on, the following year, when she came now crawling with the bag of mango to my tent, close to my tent, it made me realize how grateful she was, grateful that she could get a life, she could get somebody who was really passionate and looking after her. She had a new family, And when she knew that we came, and she came, she says, I needed that leader, the one who brought this team. They said, he's in that tent. And I was still in my tent that day. It was rainy, and it was really messy in my tent because the tent was, the rain somehow just went into the tent. And I managed to sleep, and it was at night. So I managed to sleep like a few hours. And in the morning, I said, somebody is actually outside your tent. And as I opened the tent, I see she crawled there with a bag, and how she managed even to crawl with a bag of mangoes, and she said, thank you. That to me meant the world because she didn't have anything, but she believed that that was a gift for me. And I think from that moment, I knew now what it meant to be for people who are on the other side of the fence, of affordability, of healthcare, and to know that the only hope they can have is probably somebody who will accept them. And this was taken just a week ago. And looking at the contrast, me finding out what I should be doing and realizing that, and up to today, it's still going on for 25 years. I felt this something to be in change. And this is at the heart of medical mission. So I wanted just to talk about what is medical mission and what is at its heart. Of course, the links at the bottom, I did not click on them because we are a small gathering. So I'm just gonna go. Maybe we're gonna share the photos later because a lot of those links at the bottom are pictures. So before you accuse me of not using the Bible, I'm gonna quote just a couple of verses just to say the foundation, what it is. And Matthew 25:35 to 40, put the picture back to me and say, whatever you did for one of the least of these, you did it for me. And very often we see it, as we were talking earlier, the church become more, even life is more transactional. What do I get out of it? Mm-hmm. And I remember even the verse today that I was reading in my devotion today somehow captured this very well because Jesus was kicking out the people from the church who have transformed the church to be a place of business. Yeah. And I think today it's still the same. We're very transactional in what we do and kind of saying, whoever doesn't give you anything, are they worth, they actually, we put it, are they worth of my time? Mm. Why should I go listen to that guy this morning and skip my breakfast or something? What do I gain? Is this guy a nice speaker? Is it, you need a motivation to attend something. It's a conference. Yeah, what's the conference about? It's about this and this and this. You kind of, so what will change? And we're talking about it earlier today, how people are saying, why should I pay CMF to be part of it? Why should I pay money? I'm already tithing in my church. I'm already part of the church. I get all that I want. And if that is now to a low common man, imagine what happened to mission. Because a lot of these places are very remote. Yeah. It's not something that is, there's nothing sexy about it. You're not going to come up and like tell anybody, well, I walk in Kavango, I walk in Zavora. And people will, what it is like. Everybody will be like, where is that? And you kind of, even you kind of explain what do you do, where is your place where you're working, what is so attractive about it, what do you normally do, and most of the time there is nothing linking that place to what you can share with people than your excitement to be relevant. And unfortunately in the process a lot of people lose themselves. If not your heart, your mission, your passion, or whatever brought you to that area, you lose it in the process. But that's where we are called. We are told whatever you did for the least of these people, the people who cannot give you back. In that transaction, it's actually a one-way transaction where you are the donor You are not the receiver, and nobody enjoys that because that's why we are called to give it to the least of these who would not give us back. Well, at least mine gave me a bag of mangoes. But in most instances, those are the people who will not give you anything back. It's a one direction. And of course, Luke 10:33, the Good Samaritan example, is one of the other things that touches me because we look at the people who pass that incident. The priest included, probably saying, I'm rushed. There is a crowd waiting for me to preach today.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, I did not do that to you. It's somebody else. So why should it be my problem? We know everybody had an excuse to look away. Well, this is not my type of thing. Mission is really not my cup of coffee or my cup of tea, so to speak. And we know who came and felt they needed help and they needed his help. And stop whatever, it was an interruption. It comes with a cost. And the cost, as we were saying in that transaction, was again one direction. Because it cost him his time, inconvenience to wherever he was going, plus his pocket had to suffer from the whole thing. And what did he gain in return? This is a businessman. He could have expected much from his every action that he did, but he didn't. So that's to me is the foundation. Though we know the Nazareth manifesto, go preach the gospel and heal the sick. And look, we know that very well why Jesus came. And that's the reason why I didn't add that. But why medical mission? And as I said, it's in Luke. Preach the gospel and heal the sick. And that's probably where I believe our role model should be in what was set up. This is Dr. Edward and Bernice, who were the first missionary in Kijabe Hospital, for those who have not been in Kenya. And what I discovered, I took this picture in December when I was in Kijabe visiting them. And I was inspired because they were young and they had a lot more to do. They were working for a mission organization called AIM, Africa Inland Mission. And they were recruited by a person called Hulbrecht. Now Hulbrecht is an American missionary who came to Africa. Before that, that means in 1800, just because this one started in 1911 up to 1940. In a small time, but when you look at it today, when you look at that link there, you click at the link and you see what Kijabe is today, and you'll be like amazed. But Hulbrecht, coincidentally, he came to DRC and he's the one who brought Protestants, so to speak, into the east of DRC, Goma included. So people didn't know how to pronounce Hulbrecht, so they called him Horobe. Horobe. So now we grew up knowing Horobe as identified as Protestant church. And we always call it Horobe. So if you are not Catholic, because at that stage only Catholic used to be in the DRC.
Yeah.
Every places was a Catholic missionaries. Now the Protestants were brought in by Hulbrecht, who he had left now Kijabe, coming to the east of DRC and found this Protestant church. Now the reason why I'm emphasizing that is because the story behind it. Every time somebody does not drink alcohol, they call, oh, that person is he's Horobe. Because that was the religion that came to stop people from drinking and smoking. And up to today, in Kijabe area, you can't sell alcohol, you can't sell cigarettes. because of that culture. And this
Oh,
is a
wow.
population of about 5,000 people.
That's amazing.
So it became a culture that has changed the whole Kijabe area. Not only ministering of health needs and attending to people all over, but also the culture of smoking and drinking has stopped. And this is identified. So if somebody say horror, you're also a horror, meaning all they identify with is meaning you're part of that church that does not drink or smoking. But anyway, he invited them, and eventually they started that mission because they believed that that was one of the way to spread the gospel. And the gospel was spread to that Kijabe, and up to today it's still influential. And a lot of medical doctors go to train there, including the DRC people.
Yeah.
Now I have a story to tell them about the connection between Hulbrecht, which I only learned recently. Now, the lesson that I'm going to share with you now in the next 15 minutes, because I was told we have about 3 hours. I will not stop in 3 hours, so I'm going to try to stop earlier than that. So I'm just going to tell you a few stories from 4 countries. And the theme that I chose was faith, perseverance, and teamwork from those 4 perspectives. What is faith like, what is perseverance like, and what teamwork is, to characterize what I have learned in the last 4 sessions, because I was just told to focus only on my 4 trips, and these are the 3 things that I've learned through these 3 top 5 things. Faith, perseverance, and teamwork. And if you look at the map, the 4 countries, I was in Senegal, Senegal is there. I was in Madagascar, Madagascar is there. I was in Angola, that's there. And Ivory Coast, that's somewhere here. So they scattered. Of course, I'm not going to tell you about the other trips, but they will come as time goes. Now, in Senegal, these are some of the links to the pictures, which we're not going to share now, but you're welcome to use the PowerPoint. When you use the PowerPoint, you can click on any of these. It will take you to those pictures.
Thank you.
But this is Dakar, and you will remember that Senegal has another country that's in Vinet, the Gambia, and it's 97% Muslim. Christianity is only just about 1 to 2% Christianity. And the hospital where I work, it's called Batime Hospital, and it's in a second largest city, which is Thiès. But in that second largest city, you hardly see Muslim, and it's the only evangelical mission hospital. The rest of the Christian hospitals are Catholics. So it's called the Evangelical Church of Senegal, that kind of amalgamated churches. They said we put in together one mission hospital, and that's where they put that hospital. So I visited them. The head of that hospital is a Zambian missionary who moved there with his wife, and they ran that for the last 20 years. Incidentally, he trained at Kijabe Hospital. Before, when he was a doctor already in Zambia, he was called to mission via YM, Youth with a Mission, and he went to train in Kijabe to do anesthesia, to train in anesthesia, then went and worked, and now had been running that hospital for all those years, and I was staying with him at his house. So, what have I learned in there? I spared you from those photos so that we stick to the 15 minutes remaining. I think in Senegal, my mosque was an inspiration. As I started off by telling you my story, that it wasn't me feeling the need for patients or the need to attend to sick people, but was mainly what I could get out of medical schools and my career change that motivated me. And when I was in Senegal, I realized the same applies to a lot of young people these days. And there I was working with these young doctors. They were seniors, but most of them, they were, I don't know how to characterize them. I don't think they saw me as relevant or anything, but they were good with me. They didn't care much.
They didn't interact with you.
They didn't interact with me much as I did with the students,
Yeah.
the doctors. So I was mainly with the young doctors and the students.
Okay.
So I will do, the seniors will, the juniors will come, they do their rounds in all the disciplines,
Yeah.
and then they wait for their seniors to come for a walkthrough,
Yeah.
and then one of them will come, or they will gather the students who come for electives, or they are located there for their rotation because there is a medical school there that has adopted them. And then one of the senior will come and say who is allocated there to look after the student. They will do the round, the student will do a presentation and stuff. So I was mainly with the students and the juniors. The seniors is mainly in theater. When we were in theater, we will talk and we will interact and all of that stuff. But they had this pattern that is usual, where they meet for the first time. You meet your patient is in theater. They didn't know, but these juniors, they did most of the heavy lifting. I don't know if they were not there. I don't know what would have happened. It is a mission hospital, but not necessarily everybody is mission minded.
Yeah.
Meaning they just have a chapel, a morning prayer, which is very early, and that's it. But there is nothing else that changes it to be a mission hospital.
Good point.
Not necessarily that I know what it should be, but there was nothing else that.
Doesn't seem to have a mission culture.
Yes, there was nothing like that. And of course, even hiring, we had the one discussion about who should work there. Should Christian only? Should Muslim? In a country where very rare Christians. Anyway, that's a different discussion altogether. But in that process, when I was taking the students for the tutorial, I used to take them on a round. Even the junior will come, will do the round with any of them in any of the ward. So when we finished, because I spent there about 4 weeks, in my first week, I wasn't sure what to do, but I established later my routine, and it was much easier. But when I finished, this photo we're taking on the last day with big smile. So I was asking them, what were they expecting from me and what did they learn, and just to get the feedback from them. And what amazes me is a lot of them pointed out that they lack vision. They didn't realize why they went to medicine. Probably we share that together. And what's now the lesson that had helped them in that whole purpose, each one pointed out that I didn't know that medicine was more than just the sick patient, sicker patient. Another one, this one told me, throughout this time we were together, I now realize how vast medicine is. And to have all this knowledge wider spread. This one says to me, I now know what I need to do. I will become a surgeon. And we are still in touch, and he's registered. He's a registrar. He's starting in October this year as a registrar.
Do they have PACS?
PACS is not there. They still want you to have PACS. That one says, how come a surgeon knows some other stuff that are not surgical? Because we're doing round and we're seeing, and then I was like, why you thought surgery is just a knife? They believe that the surgeon cannot treat diabetes or cannot treat hypertension. And I said to them, they said, we are learning diabetes treatment from a surgeon. I'm like, yes, because the fact that you have appendicitis does not mean you don't have a liver, you don't have any other thing, or spleen or anything.
Well, you should be preventing amputation.
So we kind of all are raised. And what was so amazing, every one of them and now know kind of, or have a sort of image of what it means to be a doctor and what do they want to do with their doctor thing. So they have developed a career path. Some, I think the two have decided they're gonna do general surgery. The two, this one says pediatrics, that one says family medicine, but it helps them to see a broader picture. And it was amazing for them to see somebody spending time with them. Because I mean, when we were junior doctors, every time you see seniors walking, I remember at King Edward at Addington, they will come, one will ask you, where is everyone? If they are asking me, where is everyone? Why is no one here? I don't know, hello, where am I? Because they are referring to seniors. So the juniors usually disappears. You are only needed for work that you need to do. But when they are asking, is anyone here? They're literally looking for their colleagues. And that's what happened.
In other words, you didn't count.
Mm.
Yes. So being a junior, meaning you do not count, and that happened to them. But now they were surprised that somebody actually pay attention to them, spending time with them, putting drip with them, even show them the way to find a stable vein, or all of those stuff.
Yeah.
And they were somehow surprised. And one of them actually joked, asked me, "Are you sure you're a surgeon?" I said, "I've never been asked that before." Anyway, so the next trip is Madagascar.
Yes, I have to go to work.
Mm.
Yes.
Bye, Jane.
Jane.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye, Jane. Thanks for coming.
Nice to see you.
See you next week.
We'll share the
We can share
presentation,
the
yeah.
PowerPoint with you.
Thanks so much.
So the next trip is Madagascar. Madagascar, for some of you, you will know it because of the movie Madagascar. But these animals, they're actually real. They look in something like this, not something like that. The lemur. And it's quite when you look at it, you could think that it's very small. It's actually big. From there to there, it's probably about maybe 2,000 kilometers. The largest part from there to there, it could be even maybe probably just over 500 kilometers to go across. And Antananarivo is in the center.
And the roads are appalling.
Yeah.
So it's further than like 2,000 kilometres in South Africa and
Yes.
2,000 kilometres in Madagascar. Very different because the roads. are
Yes,
bad.
that's true. Very, very, very yes. And I think it's important to emphasize the road because the cities where I was in Antananarivo. I was in the second largest city, which is Ansirabe,
Mm.
and I went to another one called Fianarantsoa, which is somewhere here. And I spent 6 weeks in that old section. But to go from one city to another, though it could be 200 kilometers, you spend the whole day because of the road. But it was amazing to see Madagascar in another light and to see what I have learned there. I met this young man, relatively speaking. He's called Quenbeck. Quenbeck, his story is quite a good one because he was a missionary in America, was called to do mission, he was a doctor and went to Madagascar. And suddenly he had this vision that the church should be involved in mission, in medical mission, which is the largest church in Madagascar what church is it called? The Anglican?
Or the Lutheran
The
Church.
Lutheran Church. Now the Lutheran Church is the largest. At that stage, they were not involved in medical work. But he believed that medicine should be at the heart of what the gospel is. So he brought that vision to the church and started a small hospital in Antananarivo. And once that church that was well established, it became bigger and the network And success of that story, a lot of government hospitals. In South Africa, most of the hospitals were taken over by government. In Madagascar, a lot of government gave the way there to the Lutheran churches. Look, this guy can run these hospitals. So
Wow.
they gave them those hospitals. Now they run 50 plus health centers. Some started by them, some were given as a gift to run the hospitals. It's amazing how what they run, what I learned is you can make a difference, but stick to your vision. Because now he's back in the US, because this photo we took it when I was attending a conference, the CMF US conference. And after my talk, because we were promoting the World Congress in Arusha, and after my 15 minutes talk, he came and tapped my shoulders. Can I have tea with you? And I look at him, this old man, yeah. Well, who are you? He says, I'm Dr. Kwampe. And he introduced himself loudly. And then he explained, have you been to Madagascar? I told him I've been there. And eventually we spoke about it. And he says, please do consider visit Madagascar, and especially Salfa, which is the NGO that he started that ran those hospitals. And eventually we went there, and you will see from the photos and those links was Salfa and whatever I have done there. It's amazing. The good news is, as far as the reach is concerned, these hospitals are spread across the whole Madagascar. In every province there are those hospitals. Second, they run 100% autonomous, so they don't depend on donations.
You mean they charge the patient?
They charge the patients, the salaries, medication and everything. Those hospitals run like that. They are self-sufficient.
With government subsidy?
No subsidy. So it's 100% self-sufficient. The only thing that they get for those that they initiated is the construction of the building. That's all. The extension or anything is self. And funny enough, we believe that people are poor. And Malagasy people will see poverty everywhere. But to understand that it's self-sufficient, that's quite amazing. Of course, everything is cheaper. From salaries, it's very low. People paying very low, minimum. But that's how they are. But somehow, they don't get anything else. And it's amazing when you look at the photos, you'll believe that this is funded by some Westerner or something, but it's not. So what's the lesson I learned here? It's be faithful. God who has entrusted you with little, more. Oh, those who look after small, they will be given even more. By being faithful, responding, entrusting you with something small, God will multiply that. And that's the impact that I saw. And I don't think that the church in Madagascar has looked back. After Comeback and produced just one hospital, and now the massive work, it's more than enough. And they reach, nobody employs, actually I was joking with them, which is true. I was telling them, nobody is an employer in healthcare than you. Nobody can tell you about the health in Madagascar because you can tell them from your stats if you gather all the data. Nobody can tell you how to look after patients because you look after them very well than anybody else. But this started from just a small, being faithful to God called to Madagascar and to be anything. Anyway, now we go to Angola. So that was the faithfulness lesson that I learned there. In Angola, we went to various hospitals. You can see there I visited 4 or 5 hospitals. Kavango is somewhere in the center. CML is a Center Evangelical Medical of Lubango, which is in Lubango, which is further south at the border. Maximo Toko is a Catholic hospital, which is 50 kilometers from Lubango Center. It's a Catholic one. That priest is very ambitious. He wants even to build a medical school. And he's started already. He's got a small clinic where I was teaching nurses how to do the suturing and all of that. But he's starting to extend that to make it a hospital, that clinic. He's got 2 doctors, but he wants to start a medical school. He wants to expand, and I don't know how that will happen. So he's got money, he's got the vision, but I don't know if he's got the capacity to do it. But only time will tell. Augustino NATO is a central hospital, which was in Shamble. It's more like a Lutuli hospital. When you look at the pictures, you'll see it's massive. At some stage, they didn't know where they were going, but they asked one of the general in the army, a lady, came in and they put her in charge. She's a general in the army, in Angola and Army. They brought her from Luanda. She came and ran in that hospital. It's now beautiful. And they've run quite a few.
The person, not the degree.
Yes. Then we went to Holga Chavez. Here I didn't work much. It was just a visit, mainly visits and observation. It's a COVID setup that was transformed to a hospital eventually. And all of them taught me a lesson. So, what's a lesson? Challenges in working in a remote area. This picture, unfortunately, you won't be able to see it very well, but this is the mission, Kavango Mission Hospital, where I was. And this picture, I'm taking it as we are about to land on a small plane. This whole area, it's almost 5 kilometers radius, belongs to the mission station. To go there as well, it's about maybe 10 kilometers, all of that. And this village is part of the hospital. The staff, they stay in that village. But the rest of the patient, they come 3 hours, 4 hours to this place. It's far, it's in the middle of almost nowhere. There's nothing that works, cell phone, nothing. So internet was working just because they've got this Starlink that was working there. But there are only 2 doctors there to see patients, and they see about 50 to 100 patients a day. So if one doctor goes on leave, one run the whole place. So how do they manage? They train locals. Initially, even those who are not medics, they train them to do something. They find themselves useful. And they train them how to do battles and you start. They train them to do whatever, and eventually when they pick up somebody who can do better in this and this, they send them, go and study something, and then come back. And eventually they have completed, they are in the process of creating a team out of almost of nothing. And speaking of creating a team out of dust, this hospital was started by the missionaries, the Foster family missionaries. Many years ago, they came there to look after leprosy patients who were abandoned, were left, were outclassed, were outcast by anybody. And they created a village there where they were looking after them. And then war came, civil war came in Angola. And they burned everything, including the missionary houses. Now, when you come there, you will see a lot of these hospitals, these buildings that you see, it's a foundation and they built on top of the same foundation, literally from ashes. The population here, they come from almost the representation of everywhere, because they came with their families. And they create another tribe, because those families of leprosy and everybody came just because of that hospital. But that hospital now today is going everywhere, and people are referred by everywhere, and now there is a pilot, a small strip, so you can go and connect to remote clinics. They have a referral where they can send patients from the plane to other referral centers. They came to fetch me actually from all those places.
Is that where Stephen Foster is now?
Yes, the Foster now, there is one Foster who is running now the CMF in Lubango, who started the way the PAX program is. But the Fosters are no longer there. It's now Tim and the one Brazilian doctor,
Okay.
missionaries. So they are there. So what did we learn? With this minimal supply, because the shopping center for groceries 2 hours away. So you have to go 2 hours to buy all your groceries, fill up your fridges, and that's where you can get your diesel and everything. I remember even Tim, I was staying in his house. When he leaves the car, the car keys in the car. You just leave the car just like that. The house doesn't close. So I said to him, what do you think? He's like, yeah, if somebody did it, let them help themselves. They don't have to break it.
Said in Canada.
Yeah, he says they don't have to break him at the car. They can just use it. So he just can't leave the car and go to the house. But to get petrol, you have to have it 2 hours away from there.
So if you steal the car, you run out of petrol anyway.
If you don't have petrol, you'll find yourself stuck somewhere. Anyway, so it's very limited. Resources don't have them. Everything you have is very remote location. But what lesson do I learn? Adaptability. You have to adapt or die. Because you have to come up with the solutions, and they come with creative ways. Improvise from medicine to equipment to whatever you need to use. They have improvised everything. Training locals, as I has mentioned. Otherwise, you're not gonna get through the day. And working in those extremes, you'll have to learn. Recently, Marine, who is the missionary pilot from Netherlands, said to me they've got this 3D printer. And they are printing some of the stuff that you use, the planes, whatever,
Oh, wow.
they're printing them from home.
Instead of buying from
Yes, instead of buying, and it's become cheaper because the kids are there. Teaching the kids because they are learning in that area. So it was amazing. Anyway. Oh, I've gone beyond by now 10 minutes. But we're about to finish. So my Ivory Coast, this is the last one.
Electricity supply.
Oh, they have the solar panels.
It's solar.
Yes, it's solar, and they've got a generator, but solar does everything.
Yeah, it's good.
But that's where I learned that
Yeah.
you don't even iron anything, because
Charles the
yeah, so you
Yeah.
have to do the old way. I was putting my clothes and then sit on them. Though you can have.
But you don't criticize anyone else with wrinkly clothes.
No,
All
you
got
don't,
wrinkly clothes.
because everyone has very good
It's the fashion.
but it was good to see how you improvise everything. Thanks for that nice question. But they've got this fridge that works on solar and everything. It's very solar. You wouldn't even notice.
Yeah.
But the internet speed on those Starlink is just in few seconds. If you put something to download, in 1 minute it will download. Whatever downloading. So this is my last trip in Ivory Coast. This guy is actually a Marine. Where he was working in Iraq, and then he's now working in Saudi Arabia and joined us. He's not a medic, but because of working as a Marine, they learned this quick thing, and he's working now in Saudi Arabia supporting, but he joined us.
But what is he Christian?
He didn't say much. His name though is a Christian, so he comes with a Christian background.
But what got into Ivory
That is a good question, because that's what I'm talking about now. Because what I've learned here, this was a part of Project Cure, and Project Cure is one of the largest churches in America that does medical mission outreaches. So there is American Press, which comes from the Graham Ministry.
Samaritan's Purse.
Samaritan Press, yeah, so Samaritan Press. And this Project Cure comes from Harvest Ministry.
Just to explain, we were a bit confused by this because I don't know if you know about the Cure hospitals that do orthopedic work. They're not connected.
Yeah.
They just happen to have the same name. We were a bit confused. to start with.
So-
Is CURE like outreach of specialists, orthopedics?
Yeah, but not. It's not.
That's a
connected.
different
This is a different
This is
organisation.
the organization. This
Hmm.
is organization linked to Harvest
Harvest.
Ministries, which has quite a separate churches, and they have these projects to go out with relief or funds. They can donate equipment. They come and evaluate. They work in a relationship with about 150 countries around the world, and they go on those short-term 4 days trips. And our team in Angola, it was my first time to work with, and it was an alliance with RIA, which is Redemption in Action, an Ivory Coast based kind of organization, which the visionary is based in the UK. He works for a company that manufacture incinerators for developing countries, and he's not a medic, but because they supply those, he ended up having this redemption in action, believing it's a way to do something for his country, Ivory Coast. And then he contacted QA, and QA said, "Oh, we can support you." So they came, they donated, and they've been developing that relationship. And I called and contacted them via Martin Bach when I was in Zambia for the conference, and he introduced me to that guy. And that guy said, "Oh, we have a meeting in an outreach. Why don't you join us?" So that's when I went and joined them. 21 people from 6 countries. In 4 days, we saw just over 500 patients, meaning it's about 100 patients, 100 plus a day. And majority was sepsis, just in kids, adults, non-communicable disease, diabetes, and everything. It was just 2 doctors. The rest were nursing, preachers, anything else. What was so strange was quite a few people were not, faith did not, it wasn't just one thing that they look at, the criteria to join the outreach. So you can just come if you are willing to serve.
So not everyone on the team was Christian.
Yeah, and there was no emphasis on that actually. But it was good to be part of that and see what you can do and reach out to the world. Yeah, so that's our team, and that's a facility where we're seeing patients, and you can see from every diverse and everything. So this, what it taught me was mainly teamwork, how a collaborative people who never met, who never seen each other before, and we can come for a purpose, a common purpose, and that is healthcare delivery to a community that we, so it's actually a bunch of strangers, a team that we've never met before, to a lot of languages that you've never spoken before, to probably a setup that you've never been before, to a local language and culture and everything that you probably knew to everybody, and yet you kind of harmonize for a common purpose, which is to attend to patients' needs. And see that in action, I think I was amazed what can be done and can be achieved. Yes, it's not perfect, because you see for that aspect of Christianity, because people are not screened to come with the gospel, and of course they are working in a lot of Muslim countries and hard to reach, so it might not be an obvious thing. But the fact that you're allowed to say redemption in action, you're allowed to say here, you're allowed to show a lot of symbols and kind of faith flag in what you do to identify that you're a Christian. So in a way you can say it makes sense for them not to preach openly. But those symbols, those flags can point to Jesus to say, oh, this is actually a Christian organization.
So Ivory Coast Catholic.
It is a half, but most of the people are Catholic, yes. You will see from the pictures, even a lot of them is Catholic based. So, what's mission involved? I think 3 keys from me is those who go, like doctors, nursing, and everybody, like we were in that team. Those are the people who are there on the ground. Those are the one who goes. But we forget those who are part of the same mission, because the whole point is a team. We were there as a team, but a lot of people that were part of the team did fundraise, did whatever, they involved. They had to pay $2,700 each to be there. You pay that in wherever you are. You pay to be part of the team, plus you pay your tickets to go there. So whatever you pay, they call it donation, but it only covers your local transportation, food locally, accommodation locally, and probably insurance, but doesn't cover anything else. So you kind of ask to come to donate your time, plus you donate to be there too.
It's like mercy ships.
Yes. And seeing everybody there who's not even a doctor, paramedic, firefighters were there with us, pastors, are the people who actually donated to be part of that. So it was amazing. But what I noticed was everyone was looking for a common goal. And that's how we managed to sort out those patients. But there is another group of those who support the donors. Because we saw a lot of logistics, a lot of crutches, medication, a lot of things came as donations. They had bags, like you could fit even a truck with all the food, the goodies that were donated to the hospitals and to everything. And we were told that the container was still coming to be donated to that clinic. So that donor, I think we would have never done anything if it wasn't for those people. Because the medication, whatever we could identify somebody who was sick, but you can't do anything beyond that unless somebody says, here's the drug, here's the tablet, here's whatever, here is everything. So I think they are part of that team. And probably another team which is equally important, those who stay behind, they prayed. We were prayed for by those churches and the ministries. So the lesson is a mission can only succeed when all these components are all together. People who supported us by donating, both to individuals, I was sponsored to be there, both from waiving the 2,700, also my ticket and getting there and back, and all of those stuff. So those support is not just a medication, but it's also sponsorship for each and individual of the member of the team. And they were all part of the team. So for me, the lesson from that Angola medical mission is a team work. We see the heroes that are going there as the champions, but there are a lot of more champions that had stayed in their houses, in their homes, but they are there with you. And the only way you can feel it is when that patient smiles at you and smiles back. That's when you feel that it is. So, as we conclude, why medical mission goals, no one should be left behind. When we were in because we had to take a bus to go from Abidjan to that side, and it was 21 of us. So if the bus stops, you go to the bushes or go anywhere. When we come back, there was this, look for your body, the person who's sitting next to you. Because the idea was, if you are left behind, you don't know the language, you don't know where you are, you don't get communication, it's worse. So we had to look after each other. And I think that's the motto of the whole mission, is so that nobody gets left behind. Despite your geolocalization, despite your economic status, despite your whatever circumstances, wherever circumstances places you, you shouldn't be left alone. And that to me is the heart of what medical mission is all about. That nobody gets left behind. So it shows our global commitments to healthcare. When we talk about global commitment, people sit in the boardrooms and everything and they talk about this. I don't think they realize that some people are actually doing it while they are talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, we should be the people who are actually doing it, not the people who are talking about it, in any capacity that we have described previously. So the message is we're a global family. Let's just act like it. Sometimes we don't. And of course, this is just to show you, this is a chart from OM where the opportunities are. If you had a chance to look at it, the more greener they are, the darker green, the more coverage they are, and the needs for mission work, so the terms of percentages, 2 to 2% of mission hospitals and all of that. So you can see from the gray areas, these are where not only the gospel is needed, but also the medical mission is also needed. We will go through it to look into the need, and you can pray about the need out there. And remember, the need is both spiritual and healthcare and physical. As we are told, go into the world, preach and heal the sick.
So what's the dark green?
The dark green is higher than 30 to 20%.
Christian.
Yeah, well, coverage by mission, yeah, Christians. But when it comes to lower gray, where it's very gray, it's less than 1%. So those are the areas of needs, a lot of areas of needs. So the field is so the tradition of 2%.
Sorry, interruption. This is darker green in America.
Yeah, well, America is darker green, meaning the
No, South Sudan and Kenya is a darker.
it is darker.
No,
Yeah, meaning the mission work is
more
is
than
more.
in America.
Yes, that is why I'm saying the traditional window, they used to have a 10-40
10, 40
window.
minute,
And that 10-40 window was mainly because of Muslim influence and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. But currently, it's that darker green is going even to Europe. Europe is need evangelism and everything.
yeah.
So that has changed. So you need to update your map. So these are some of the updated. And that concept, which I don't like anymore, the 10-40 windows, will make us believe that the mission work is just into those areas. While a lot of countries are now in dire need of missionaries.
Yeah.
Equally, the sending mission, the face of mission, we spoke about it earlier, is no longer that white guy who goes to
It might be
Africa.
someone from Zambia.
But it might be somebody from Zambia. Yes. So challenges and the reality, challenges and need in medical mission, the reality on the ground, there's a lot of shortage, lack of resources, financial constraint, and how can we overcome them? We need more volunteers, we need more financial support, we need more medical supply and donation, but most importantly, we need prayer. So this is mobilizing, this is Tim in Kavango praying with his patients. So call to action, how can you get involved? We don't want you just to stack at the ideas. Oh, it's a nice idea to go on a mission. I have been planning to go on it, we want now action. I don't know how long it's going to take everyone to go from ideas to action, but I think this summarizes very well what you need to do. I like the tick box of the is it Nike that says just do it. Go join the mission trip. Serve where needed. Give, sponsor a project, donate supply or support financially. You can pray. If you cannot go, give. If you can't give, pray. Keep mission and healthcare workers in your prayers. So the challenge is take one step today to be part of this mission. at any capacity, you're still gonna be part of the vision and the greater view. If you can't go, please give. If you can't give, please pray. And if you can, just take anything. So our prayer is a guidance when we're trying to serve others. So God help us. And a special thank for Rachel and Victor and Gitume Kosi. Specifically for me, because all my trips and exposure to these areas would have never happened if it wasn't for the two of you and the Gitume project. To say, let's make it possible. If we can't go, at least we'll have somebody. So Gitume has been with me in all these areas. And whatever I have learned, I think Gitume had touched lives. And whoever I've touched, we've been together there. And most importantly, those who contributed to Gitume in somehow, in whichever way, I'm grateful for all of that. But to not forget where the glory should go
Mm.
is to God. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.